Nice Radio. And of course, we welcome all of you who are viewing on social media, the New Democratic Party's Facebook page, including its YouTube page, and the listeners of Nice Radio. The New Democratic Party and its members of the NDP will do and continue to present their side of the budget presentation, which were denied in Parliament. I welcome Senator Israel Bruce. He's here with us this morning. Senator Bruce, good morning and welcome to the New Times Program.
Good morning, Colin. Don't know if you're hearing me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Very well. Good morning to you and good morning to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to say a special good morning to the leadership of the New Democratic Party, my parliamentary colleagues, and a most special good morning to the people of the constituency of South Central Windward. Indeed, in that special good morning, I want to add the farmers and fisher folks of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm grateful for this opportunity as we speak to, of course, the issues emanating from Budget 2024. And I will pay particular attention to matters relative to the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Industry and Labor. And of course, I will pay attention to matters that are attendant to the constituency of South Central Windward.
Well, Senator Bruce, as always, it's a pleasure having you here. We know that what went on in Parliament, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a right to hear from the NDP. So without any further ado, I want you now to make your budget presentation to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to our listeners here on social media and listening via radio and Nice Radio.
Thank you so much again, Colin, and again, a pleasant good morning to all our listeners and our viewers. Now, Budget 2024 has been presented by the Minister of Finance. Before I go into addressing principally the concern that I had relevant to the ministry I proposed to shadow, it has to be said that it must be regarded and documented as an unforgivable political sin on the part of the Unity Labour Party, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that the Prime Minister, the leader of the House, the leader of government business, did not use the opportunity provided and afforded him to debate the budget of 2024. The Prime Minister, he is the head of the country. He is the one who has come to all of us to ask us to allow ourselves to be taxed so that representation can be had. And Gonzalez refused. In fact, he orchestrated the wrap-up of the budgetary debates between himself and his son, Camilo Gonzalez. They deprived the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines a fair and natural opportunity to hear fulsome debates on the matters at hand. It must also be noted that close to $500 million will be spent between Gonzalez, Carlos James, that is Ralph Gonzalez, Carlos James, Curtis King, Randy Brewster, Benova Brown, Kisal Peters, Frederick Stevenson, and I forgive St. Clair Jimmy Prince because he was out of state on family matters. I have forgive Frederick Stevenson because I later learned that he went on some mission to take care of his mother who was ill. So I've been fair to others. But for almost $500 million that these guys will be spending of taxpayers' money, they failed to come to the taxpayers of this country and say, this is how we propose to spend your money. I want that to sink in. So when people are engaging in the discussion as to why there were not fulsome debates, those facts must be taken into consideration. Now, the Ministry of Agriculture, my dear friends and listeners, set out in the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure, this document, they set out to tell us what transacted in the ministry for the year 2023. And then they propose to tell us what they hope to do for the fiscal year 2024. And I want to turn to the estimate itself at page 435, where the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, etc. sets out what is it were their priority issues for 2023 and how they went about addressing those. Now, importantly, the ministry says that the strategic priority for 2023 was that of export-led growth in traditional agriculture, commodities, and fisheries or fishery products. Reduction of the import bill by improving production and competitiveness of targeted list of commodities to stimulate private sector investment in the agriculture, fisheries, and forestry industry. Now, I will take a rest there for a while because it is important that we have an understanding as to what is it that the ministry really sets out that it says it wants to do. For a quick moment, I'll take you to page 455 of the budgetary debates or the estimates of revenue and expenditure. At page 455, Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor mission statement, and sets out the mission statement, and it speaks to the strategic priorities that I just spoke to moments ago. Then you would see that under Agriculture Extension and Advisory Services, you'd see that the government continues to make meager allocation or to allocate very small amounts to that particular body within the ministry, that department within the ministry, that is critical to assisting farmers in achieving what the farmers are setting out to achieve in their respective farming disciplines. But I will return to that. Now, at page 436 of the estimate of revenue and expenditure, I'm taken to page 436. I want to walk with you through this document so that persons know I'm not speaking from the top of my head. I'm referring to the document that the government presents to us. And on that page, it begins to speak to some of the things that were attempted in 2023 and what were the outcomes. So, for example, it says to revise and modernize legislative framework governing the agriculture and fisheries sector. And the response that we've had, that is what has happened in 2023. The government says proposals to amend Equal Pay Act, Societies Act, and the Employment of Women, Young Persons and Children Act are submitted to the cabinet. I want you to remember what I just read to you, because I'm going to turn for a brief moment to the estimate of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2023. And I'm going to take you to the Ministry of Agriculture and their input for that particular period. And I am on page 422 of the 2023 estimate. So you see it there, I'm talking 2023. And I'm going to read. Enhancing legislative framework for the protection of workers' rights. Comment, proposals to amend Equal Pay Act, Societies Act, and the Employment of Women, Young Persons and Children Act was submitted to Cabinet. For the young people who are listening to me, that sounds familiar to you. It is something that you do that is called cut and paste. So this is what they said in 2022 had happened for going into 2023. And for 2023, going into 2024, government is telling you the same thing, clearly suggesting that we have a lack of production in that particular ministry. Now, I want to say this, that the Minister of Finance, as he presented his budget speech, said quite a lot of things as it pertains to agriculture. On page 7 of the budget speech, the Minister of Finance had this to say: agriculture and the farmers and fishers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines remain at the heart of our national development. Hear those words echo in your ears. Remain at the heart of our national development. Unlike some of our neighbors, this government will not abandon agriculture in a reckless pursuit of fast but fleeting money. Sounds nice, eh? Sounds nice. But let us put that into a reality check. Remember that agriculture, according to the Minister of Finance, and fisheries remain the heartbeat of our nation development. But hear this. On page Roman numeral 3 of the budget and estimates for St. Vincent and the Grenadines 2024, I'm showing you each time so that you know that I'm telling you and I'm quoting from the same document. Yes? Under ministry number 45 is listed the Ministry of Agriculture. For recurrent expenditure, $27,365,519. Under capital expenditure, $14,529,487. A total expenditure for the ministry of $41,895.05. My friends, for the ministry that is at the heart of our national development, it is the fourth ministry from the bottom of all the ministries in terms of allocations. Let me tell you the ministries that are allocated lower resources to do the work. Comparing this as the ministry at the heart of our nation's development. Ministry of Legal Affairs, $3,665,730. Ministry of Public Service, etc., $21,555,654. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, $26,425,618. The next ministry from the bottom is the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Industry, and Labor. But here, what I told you what the minister said, that this ministry, this same ministry that is fourth from the bottom of ministries in terms of allocation of resources to get the work done for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this is where the ministry lies. Now, this must be taken in the context of the estimates debates that we had. And you ought not to forget, my friends, that out of the $1.6 billion budget presented by this government, there is an amount of $215,805,672 that the government says will come from other receipts. They will not come from grants. It will not come from external loans. It will not come from local loans. It will not come from capital revenue. It will not come from tax revenue, and it will not come from non-tax revenue. So they're saying, we will spend this $215 million in the year 2024, but we don't know where we're getting it from. What, therefore, are the implications for the farmers in Canaan, in Diamonds, in Waterfall, in Lauders Lomans, in North Leeward, in Cumberland, in South Rivers, in Three Rivers, or wherever the farmers are in this country, in Richland Park, and in Mesopotamia, and in Vermont? What are the implications for the farmers in this country and the fisher folks? So when you say that you need certain things done and the government says to you, yes, we're going to do them in 2024, you need to then ask yourselves, where is the source of money? How is the government going to be able to finance this? And the fact that there's a $215 million shortfall in the estimates on the revenue side, we could say, look, let us be real. For certain, there is $1.4 billion really. $1 billion, 400 plus thousand, 400 plus million dollars that the government will rarely account for in terms of spending. So will the roads, for example, be fixed? Will the services that this government promises to offer the people, will those services be offered? Those are the questions that we must then ask ourselves in terms of moving forward. Remember, the government says that its main priority is to increase export and to reduce import, with this ministry making a significant contribution. I will come to that in a short while. My dear friends, you'd remember that a few years ago, I addressed the budget of this country. And as it regards road conditions, perennial larceny, and the list of woes that are faced by our farmers, I placed some proposals on the table. I feel, and we on the New Democratic Party side, we feel the pains morning, noon, and night of the farmers and fisher folks of this country as they try to make ends meet. And farmers have to consistently deal with doing the legwork, putting their crops into the earth, starting the increase of their animal stock, rear those animals, care for those crops, prune and manure and water. And then when it gets close to your harvest time or your butchering time, here comes the perennial larcenist. He or she moves in, takes your crops, takes your animals, and you are left with the S end of the stick. And I suggested to this government, one of the things that needs to happen is not to abandon or dismantle the program that is in place to support the farmers, the Rural Constables Program. They laughed me to scorn and they proceeded to do as they please. But my friends, this government engaged the farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines during the period December 2022 to February 2023, almost a year ago. And coming out of those consultations, there are several consultations which were held in Richland Park, Lauders, Sandy Bay, South Rivers, Daphne, Bayabu, Vaughan, Leyu, and Chomaka. And I want to take you to the report that came out of those consultations. And the report reflected, by and large, the common positions that emanated from the consultation. On the perennial larceny, this is what was reported. Perennial larceny has been reported in all farmers' consultation as a very serious problem plaguing the agricultural sector. Therefore, the major issues raised as they pertain to perennial larceny are as follows. 1. Report cases of perennial larceny to the police are not dealt with in a timely manner, while others are not followed up or investigated, or nothing comes out of the reported cases. Pain. Number 2, it was also mentioned that thieves not only steal produce, but also steal planting materials of sweet potatoes, yams, etc. What is it that the farmers recommended to the government? Remember I told you what I recommended? I'm telling you now, the actual players in the industry spoke to the government, the Minister of Agriculture and the Prime Minister of this country. Suggestions and recommendations. One, the general view among farmers is that rural constable should be reinstated. How would you read that again? The general view among farmers is that the rural constables should be reinstated to help curb the spread of peridot larceny. It's not my publication. It's right there for all to see. Produced by the Ministry of Agriculture, not produced by me. So the farmers themselves have said to this government, you're not doing enough to help us. In fact, your decision to disband the Rural Constables Program is hurting us more than it is helping us. And we're asking you to reinstate it. My friends, the government that listens to the people, in 2024, in their estimates, did not make a single allocation to address the issue of the reinstatement of the Rural Constables Program and to strengthen it, to buttress it, so as to meet the expectations, recommendations, cries, pains, and pleas of the farmers and fisher folks of this country. What a government. Then, the Minister of Finance went on to speak to a number of other areas as it relates to agriculture in his speech. But again, I will also come back to that. I told you moments ago that if the government has a shortfall of over $200 million, then when they say to you that they're going to fix a particular road, you want to believe them. But I say to you, take it with a pinch of salt. And I'll tell you why I say so. I'm going to augment that particular point. I'm going to give you reasons to support that point. Again, I refer to the report. This report. Consultation number 1, Richland Park. Number 2, Lauders. Number 3, Sandy. Number 4, South Rivers. Number 5, Daphne Center. Number 6, Bible. Number 7, Vermont. 8, Leyu. And 9, Chomaka. The old and vexing question of farm roads was raised with the Minister of Agriculture, his officials, and in some regards the Prime Minister, because he attended some of these consultations. As it regards to the farmers in Richland Park and those areas, they pleaded and they asked that the Montreal Road to the Macmillan Bypass Road be given some attention. The response, budget 2024, nothing. Lauders, consultation held at the Lauders Primary School. The farmers in the Lauders Lowmans area asked that the road, the Fiddlewood Road, the Trash Road, the Roseback Road, Breadnut Road, and Waterfall Road, that those roads be given some attention. In response to the farmers of Lauders, Lowmans, Chapmans, and surrounding areas in South Central Windward, budget 2024, Representative Sabuto Caesar, Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez, and Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez gave you nothing of what you asked for in terms of roads for your constituency, in that particular part of the constituency. Sandy Bay, Danjal, and London to Jacks Road, nothing. In South Rivers, Gracefield, Maho, Grand Market, Jarvis, Kettle Peace. In Connery, Goss, Byra Valley, Connery Estate, Jennings Valley, Bower, Perseverance, Morn, Garu, Malata Valley, Kanjuka, Fiddlewood, Lanley Park. Again, budget 24 offered nothing to the farmers. Daphne, Trigger Ridge, Green Hill to Fenton, Bovewood, Redemption Shops, and Mountain Road. Nothing. The Bible consultation, Buchan, Massey, Neil and Massey, Cedars Mountain Road, Maho South Union Road, Old Ground, and Popwell. Ask for all these roads, at least to get some attention to some of them. Nothing in budget 2024. The Vermont consultation, Paradise, Banker Hole, Maloney, and Veryvine. Luckily, Maloney and Veryvine will get some attention based on what is indicated in this budget. Leyu, Lavette, Big Gut, Palmis, and Bellwood. Again, nothing in budget 2024 for you. And in Chomoka, Hermitage, Monkbridge to Belial, and Fall Peace. My friends, my dear farmers, nothing. What a government. And the farmers themselves address fundamentally what are the conditions that they have to work with. That's what they said. Farm workers refuse to go into farming locations where there are bad farm roads to either work or to transport agricultural produce or inputs to and from farmers' holdings. High post-harvest losses of vegetables and root crops due to physical damages are frequent occurrences. Higher transportation costs to get inputs to the farm and harvest produce from the farm, which results in extremely high cost of production. And the list goes on and on. In fact, an important stopgap note here is that the farmers have said to the consultation with government state officials that some farmers have given up or stopped farming as a result of the poor road conditions. What a government. This is the government that says that farming is at the heart. It's not me, the Minister of Finance says that farmers and fishers remain at the heart of our national development. They want roads, none for them. They want help with the thieves who go to steal their produce by asking for the reinstatement of rural constables, none of that for them. And I have just started to touch on the farmers' issues. My friend, those of you who followed me in previous budgets and in questions I put before the parliament, I raised the questions of farmers' ID. And I told this nation that it was an avenue for corruption by the Unity Labour Party government. They chastised me, they maligned me, they accused me of trying to score narrow partisan political points, and all kind of chastity was laid at my feet politically. Now, this is not Israel Bruce speaking now, you know. I am going to take you to where the farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines spoke to the ministry officials about that issue. And I want to read it word for word with you, my friends, so that you hear me loud and clear. Again, I'm referring to the report that came out of the December 2022 to February 2023 document from consultations done by the Ministry of Agriculture. This section is dealing with, as you can see it there, farmers' ID. Farmers' ID. See it there. This is what it says. Issues surrounding farmers' ID came up throughout the consultations across the country as an important area which requires urgent attention. The main issues that came up for discussions are as follows. 1, many farmers put forward the issue of the difficulty of getting ID cards renewed which was due to the new requirement of deeds. It was stated painstakingly that it was virtually impossible for many of them to obtain deeds because of their farming operations on state lands. And that point went on. Number two, it was considered an unfair practice where legitimate farmers are unable to get ID cards, while at the same time, persons who are not engaged in any significant farming or, hear this, or do not farm at all have access to farmer's ID. I crave your indulgence. That's not Israel who's speaking, you know. The farmers themselves are complaining to the ministry officials that persons who are not farmers, they have farmers' ID. But you know why? Let the truth be told that because this government was providing financial assistance to farmers, they abused the farmers' ID program by using it as an avenue to put monies into the hands of their supporters, whom they knew were not legitimate farmers. And I want them to challenge me on it, because they know that the system is rife, full, abundant, pregnant with people who are not farmers but are in possession of farmers' ID and are reaping the benefits north, south, east, and west. What a government. Now, they didn't tell the farmers that they were political. They didn't tell them they were trying to score cheap political points, because it's not coming from them as politicians now. But I was echoing as the servant in the wilderness of the farmers, echoing their calls and concerns, saying to the Minister of Agriculture and the officials, prepare the way of the farmers and make their path straight. That's what I was doing. My friends, I'm trying to be as disciplined as I can with the 45 minutes that would have normally been afforded to me. I want to take you back to budget 2024 document. Remember, I told you that one of the expectations has to do with reducing the cost of importation and so forth and so on. I want you to take it to page 445 of the estimates of revenue and expenditure 2024. Page 445. I know you don't have the document with me, so I'm using it every time so you know I'm quoting the document and the page that I refer to. I shall refer you. Monitor and control trade in animal products through port surveillance. Whilst the issue of port surveillance is the major issue under consideration, there are some important statistics that are lodged within that particular section. And I want to take you there patiently. A total of 3,551,848 kilograms of meat and meat products were inspected upon importation into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a value of $20,746,639. That's what we spent. Unless I do the comparative analysis, my friends, the point will be lost on you. And I want you to get the point that I am making here and now. So, for that reason, I will take you to the 2023 estimates of revenue and expenditure. And I'm at page 432. Strategic priority area, monitor and control in trade, the trade in animal products through port surveillance. Under the comment section, a total of 1,965,545,093 kilograms of meat products were imported into the country. Value 12,448,186.51. 12 million, yeah? In 2023, that jumped from 12 million to $20 million. In terms of poultry and poultry products, 1,592,613.43 kilograms of poultry and poultry products at a value of 7,948,636.83 were inspected for entry into St. Vincent. It's telling you how much the value of the poultry products that were brought in. In 2023, for that same poultry product, is 3,058,311 kilograms at a value of 16,171,709. Again, an increase in our import bill. And maybe we got it very well, so it's a substantial increase. But this government told you that the strategic priority is to take that figure downwards. Instead, it is spiraling upwards and out of control. What a government. What is this government doing to assist with increasing our export in meat and meat products and poultry? Well, there's a glorified occasion every year where we go to the ferry terminal in Kingston to ship animals off to Grenada. And I don't want to be taken out of context and wrongly on this subject matter. I don't have a problem with regional integration. I don't have a difficulty with regional cooperation. I have a fundamental problem when the priorities of the Vincentian farmer is not given first place. So that you sell the live animals to Grenada. Grenada then takes them to the abattoir in Grenada, slice and dice to international standard, sell as free-range animals, and gets the best price on the world market. Why have we denied Vincentian farmers the same thing? This government, this ULP government, received grant funding for the establishment of an abattoir here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They kicked it here, pussyfoot here and pussyfoot there, and then it disappeared totally from the budget. Because that is not important. The farmers of this country who are producing animals must not get the best price for the animals, because this government wants them to come to beg at their feet ever so often. Business people who took a risk to invest in this country, and I speak to Midway butchers, I make no qualms about mentioning them. Midway butchers has lost business opportunities because of this backward policy. My good friend Terry has lost business opportunities because of this backward approach of this government. Terry Gibson. My friend, you heard Midway butchers on the program. They're accustomed to cut the meat to international standard and sell off to the top-end buyers for our big visitors in Mustique. You know what? Midway butchers can no longer satisfy that market because he cannot get live animals to slaughter. The burgers and so forth and so on as byproducts of the animals that he made and sold to small vendors to thrive with their small businesses, they too fall on their face. Why? Because this government saw it fit to sell off the live animals to Grenada and let the local businesses suffer. What a government. And my friend, I spoke to you earlier on. I need to make this point before I go on. I spoke to you earlier on about the issue of the ID cards, and I also spoke to you about perennial larceny. But I want you to understand that there is an interrelationship between them both. Because if the government or if people within the Ministry of Agriculture are facilitating persons who are not farmers to get ID cards to operate as farmers, it then gives them the green light. Those people who are not farming and producing crops and not rearing animals, to then steal people animals and sell them off to butchers here and there. And therefore, I say that by conducting themselves in such a way, I respectfully submit that the state is complicit in perennial larceny and the suffocation of our farmers. I say that without any regrets at all. I'm going to turn swiftly and wrap up on the matter of the fisheries. You heard much was said about the public-private sector arrangement between government and private sector. And what we call it, solidarity fleet expansion. For those who paid attention, when the tuna vessels were deregistered in St. Vincent, I said in our nation parliament that our government should look favorably at establishing a particular fund where you'd send certain select persons who perform well, not just to go off to be lawyers and doctors and engineers and so forth, but those who would be willing to get involved in the fishing industry and give them scholarship to go off to study what it means to manage and to run and to captain and to operate these big vessels. And whilst they're out there studying 2, 3 years, 4 years, the government will continue to invest monies into a fund that by the time they're finished, there'll be sufficient monies in the fund where you can put 3, 4 of these mega vessels out there in the waters where you can spend weeks. You catch, you process, you come back, you're ready for marketing. Again, I was laughed at and I was scorned. But lo and behold, here came the genius, solidarity fleet expansion. One single fisherman, one from the Grenadines, has been able to go beyond the conception of their idea to get in a vessel. And guess what? He said, I can't go with this. The way this thing is designed, it going to turn me into a pauper in no time at all. And it was returned to the program designers. Wow. So all the talk here about this public-private partnership, this solidarity fleet expansion program is going all but nowhere fast. I said to the government, find a heart, find a way to support the fishermen of this country. I welcome the proposal of the center at Lomans Bay and the one at Shipping Bay. For many of us who live on the windward side of this country, we pass and we subscribe to the Kojo Fernandez and Gatsu Warrican and others who do their fishing out in Shipping Bay. And then the Jack and Providence and others who do their shipping down in Lomans Bay. But we need to do more for these people. Because we all know that even the sheds that were supposed to be built by the fisher folks to get them cracking in Lomans, that is falling way behind. Only about 1/3 of the fisher folk that was shifted from Bottom Town down to Lomans Bay have been able to try to put themselves into some semblance of good operation. Let us consider the idea of giving a bonus, a rebate to our fisher folks, so that as they buy their petrol and they go there to fish on a half-yearly basis, they could submit their purchase amount by receipt, quite naturally, and then the government provide a rebate, a refund, maybe let's say $1.25 per gallon to the fisher folk, legitimate and bona fide fishermen who have ID cards as fishermen, and who are part of a fishing cooperative. I put that as a proposal. Grenada has been looking at it. St. Lucia has been doing it, and I see no reason why we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines cannot do the same thing. There is a lot of young cry about the production of white potatoes, and we see it as something glorified. My friend, the government of Canada, through a program called the Promotion of Regional Opportunities for Produce Through Enterprise and Linkages, PROPEL, has financed a program of similar sort. Dominica, 24 years ago, the Dominican Labour Party embarked on what they call a series of policies and programs to ensure that agriculture remained a contributing sector to the Dominican economy. And in 2014, the Ministry of Agriculture in Dominica imported varieties of white potato, the Spooner, the Chieftain, and the Challenger. Those three varieties to help to address the very concerns that we are saying we want to address almost 20 years later. But guess what? We had an opportunity and we didn't capitalize on it. I said to the people of South Central that clearly this government doesn't have your interests at heart. I see mention been made of the clinic in Greg's for refurbishment and the one in Lomas. My lamentation, we have finally ended on some good airs. Diamonds is supposed to get a new clinic. I am grateful. The people of Diamonds deserve that. The roads across the constituency are in dismal shape. I am told that the road leading from Diamonds up to New Delphi is now getting some attention. But where is the clinic, for example, for the people of New Delphi, New Grongs, and Chapmans? Where is their clinic? Where is the everlasting cemetery for the people of Chapmans? Where is the community center for the people of Mount Grennan? And the list can go on and on. The roads in Hadley's Village are the worst in living memory. What have Hadley's Village people done to the ULP? What a government. We need to focus on providing quality jobs for the young people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the constituency of South Central Windward. I am committed to that cause. The New Democratic Party is committed to making sure that every nurse, every policeman, every civil servant, every doctor who was sent home because they refused to take the COVID-19 vaccine, that the New Democratic Party government will allow you to come back to the job with all benefits intact. My friends, you will hear from me again. I will continue to look out for the best interests of the farmers and fisher folks of this country and the people of the constituency of South Central Windward. God bless you, and I love you all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you had the presentation by Senator Israel Bruce from the New Democratic Party side. We're standing by now. We should be joined by the chairman of the New Democratic Party, the Honorable Daniel Cummins. He's also the elected representative for the constituency of West Kingstown, to present his budget response to as well here on the New Times program. So we're standing by now for the Honorable Daniel Cummins. Hopefully we should be able to also hear the presentation by the New Democratic Party's caretaker and candidate for the constituency of East St. George, Lavon Gibson Velux. But I think we have the Honorable Daniel Cummins ready now to go with his budget presentation. Remember, he's the elected representative for the New Democratic Party in the constituency of West Kingstown. So we welcome now the Honorable Daniel Cummins.
Thank you very much, Colin, and good morning, good afternoon, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to all listeners and viewers, wherever you are. It is unthinkable that a government will present its budget in Parliament, yet the Prime Minister and most of his cabinet refuse to debate their budget in Parliament. We in the New Democratic Party are therefore in the process of explaining to St. Vincent and the Grenadines the pitfalls of this so-called budget presented by the finance minister in Parliament last week. As you know, as the representative for West Kingston, I shadow the areas of health as well as transport and works. In this presentation, I will deal primarily with health, will deal with some matters related to transport and works, and of course, I will also be discussing matters related to my beloved West Kingston constituency. But permit me first to express my condolences to the family of a very dear friend of mine, Miss Olive Comas, who died a few days ago, just shy of 105 years old. This is a magnificent lady whose faculties were intact right to the end. And my condolences go out to all of her family and friends. I will truly miss her, but God has given her a very long life. Let me therefore begin by dealing with a matter of health. And in Parliament not long ago, I asked the question of the Honourable Minister of Health, why is it that the government has ceased to produce a very important monitoring and evaluation report? The monitoring and evaluation report, my dear friends, is the compilation of all the relevant statistics with respect to health. In other words, how many people get sick for whatever different categories, the types of diseases, how many people go to the hospital, how many come out alive and how many don't come out, etc., etc. Trends over time one can monitor. Yet this government has determined that it no longer does this very important report. Why is this so critical? Go with me for a moment to an incident that happened in Japan on January 3rd with the crash of a Japan Airlines where 379 people on a big jet escaped alive despite the plane erupting in a big ball of fire on impacting with a smaller aircraft on the runway. Now, and I want to read excerpts from an article from CNN to help to explain my reason for urging the so-called government to go back to the critical exercise of monitoring the statistics, the developments in health. If you don't know what is happening, my dear friends, how therefore will you be in a position to find solutions? You live in cuckoo land and you are not in a position to make the necessary changes. On August, the article, I'm going to read excerpts from this article. On August 1985, a Japanese airline crashed, killing 520 of the 524 persons on board. Since then, Japan Airlines started on an exercise of training its operatives with a very close attention to safety. It says, when things go wrong, let me go back. To this day, it is the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history. And so Japan Airlines took it very, very seriously. Clearly, the effect was profound on the airline. Now, in 2005, realizing that many of the employees were joining the company without a memory of that accident, I want you to listen carefully. Japan Airlines opened a space in their corporate headquarters displaying parts of the wreckage as well as stories from the crew and passengers. The feeling was there are people who join our business who don't know what it's like to go wrong. everyone has to understand how much effort goes into safety. My friends, here's an airline that had a major accident way back in 1985 and set upon a safety program where they constantly trained their staff and did drills, to the point where they created a window, a unit within their corporate office, where their employees on a regular basis had to be reminded of that tragedy. And that is why when that accident, that big fireball accident occurred early this year, January 3rd, within a minute, all 379 passengers left that aircraft, which minutes after blew up in a big fireball. Within a minute, all of the chutes were down, the air stewardess urging the passengers to be calm and orderly, and every single soul escaped from that. Why am I stressing this experience from Japan? My friends, at Milton Cater Memorial Hospital, we hear of so many situations where persons who go for relatively simple care end up dead. And it is happening over and over again. In Parliament and on the radio, we keep urging this government to do an investigation into the incident. Why? We keep reminding them it's not about scapegoating. It's not about trying to zero in on who's not trained or who needs whatever pulling up. The purpose of the investigation is to determine exactly why something that should not happen is happening, and critically, to put measures in place to ensure there will not be a repeat. But in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, when something goes wrong in the hospital, it is pushed under the rug. And you hear the expression from the people who manage the facility, who are in charge. They don't want to make the comrade look bad. And that is why you're getting worse and worse incidents at Milton Cater Memorial Hospital. I don't have to enumerate them for you. Not too long ago, a young lady had to have a child on the floor of the hospital in the corridor. You're having people going in for very simple operations, coming out dead. You have the incident of the little child who died in circumstances where people tell you those things are not happening. But let me just show you a pattern of performance from this government. Remember, they are not doing the monitoring and evaluation report. They did a poverty assessment report and they buried it because they didn't like the results. They refused to make it public. They passed the Freedom of Information Bill in Parliament and they have refused to bring it into law for very many years now. This is a government of cover-up. This is a government that wants to keep any bad information away from the public. And what they're not telling you is that their concern is preventing themselves from looking bad. They care not about whether as a people we are getting better or worse. Imagine after all these years, to carry the thing even further, that in this budget, after 22 plus years of this rogue government, very rogue government, they are now talking about establishing an autonomous hospital. Strange expression. But in the budget, item 830, what they are proposing to do is to have a consultant come and advise them on establishing a unit outside of the public service for the management of hospitals in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, an exercise that they undertook way back in 2002, 2003. I know because I was a part of the team of consultants they engaged to advise them on creating a parastatal entity to take healthcare out of the government clutches. Yet the report is still sitting on the shelf. But today, in 2024, they have budgeted money to bring in a consultant again to advise them on how to manage hospitals. I want to give them a very simple advice. Don't spend that money and waste it. Just get out of the way. Let people who care about the Vincentian population get a chance to deal with matters of healthcare, whose problems are primarily focused on a lack of management, a lack of care, a lack of concern, a lack of a determination to do the best you can for all of the people and not just for the chosen ones, the chosen few. Imagine again they put in the budget a proposal to get a hyperbaric oxygen machine. You hear them talking about this year after year. We know the situation with the conch divers and more people suffering. But according to their budget, if they remain in office by 2026, hopefully they will consider finding the funds, because where they put it in the estimate for local loans on the capital expenditure, you know they ain't going to get it. So all they're doing is window dressing on a matter as critically important to the fisher folk of this country as that hyperbaric oxygen unit to prevent people dying from diving long, etc., etc. Even the tire shredder. How many moons have we been hearing about the need for a tire shredder? We still continue to burn thousands of tires in Rebecca as if nobody lives beyond the dry river. So let the fumes go. You see where they chose to burn it? Let the fumes go up there. The people beyond the dry river are not important to them in this day and age. Here is a government that talks glibly about climate change. They fly all over the world, attending conferences and tell you that they are hyped on climate change. They are preoccupied with getting money from the different avenues created by climate change. But what do they really care about climate change? Why would they be burning tires today? Why would the people of the Grenadines not have solar panels to reduce the cost of electricity, to reduce the carbon footprint? Why would the water plant for Paget Farm, donated funds by the government of Italy, years and years and years on the book, to the tune of about $5 million. And the people of Beckwith can get this magnificent project using the power of the sun to change seawater into potable water using desalination. Why can't these things be done? But instead, in this budget, they want to put $120,000 for the dead geothermal project. They've wasted millions of dollars on this project by putting it on the wrong side of the island against all of the proper advice, and finding heat but can't get the permeability. Anybody involved in the business of geothermal energy exploration know that finding of heat is a very small part, a necessary part. But the process involves exchange of heat through water. And for that to take place, there must be porosity. In other words, the water must be able to flow, there must be an exchange, and that's what allows you to generate the electricity. You put water in, it extracts heat, you take it out, you turn that heat into electricity. You put back that same water, and it takes up more heat again, and so the process goes on. If you don't have permeability, there is no possibility of extracting that heat and therefore no possibility of generating electricity. You don't have to be a scientist to know this. They teach it in your children's science class in primary school. I know. They teach it in primary school. Your children know about this. But yet they want to fool you because election coming up again to say that the geothermal project is alive. My friends, as a people, we really need to wake up. Do you remember when the Argyle Airport was being built? How we in the New Democratic Party urged this government to use the roof of the terminal building to put down a whole series of solar panels. Why? We reminded them of the high cost of air conditioning such a big building and the opportunity offered by the roof. We went further to urge them to look at the design of the roof to make sure it can take these solar panels. My friends, every month now the government has to pump money into Argyle Airport for basic operations. And this is likely to go on for some time. They even went as far as trying to put down some panels on the ground, wasting land space, trying to put panels on the ground. There are so many problems associated with putting solar panels on the ground. First of all, they're likely to get less direct effect of the sunlight because of objects. The higher up you go, the closer, the more accessible to the sun. You see it in the Bukama, the project in South Leeward, in West Kingston, where they have the biggest electricity plant down there. They put panels on the ground and the grass keeps growing and covering them up. They have to spray that ground regularly with weedicides for the panels to get any amount of heat and generating electricity. So my friends, when you talk about this climate change, when this so-called government talks about climate change, tell them, fool a talk, but not fool a listen. Look at what is happening with our roads in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Look, take a drive on the windward side of the island. When this government was implementing the Windward Highway project, a project that got its funding just when the NDP left office. A project conceptualized and brought to fruition by the New Democratic Party. We urge those people to look again at the design of the Windward Highway with a view to making some inward movements away from the coastline. Project implementation must always look at maintenance. I mean, all of us know, we've seen it. There are parts of the Windward Highway where cliffs keep falling down, the road keeps being inundated, the sea is coming in, the rivers are coming down. You can do a certain amount to restrict these things, as is happening with some city fences and so forth. But in addition to that, we have the soufriere in the north windward side of the island that brings down tremendous amount of waste material from time to time. So that one has to look down the road and determine whether it makes sense to continue with the highway along the coastline or whether we should move the highway more inland. Why aren't we thinking like that? Why we build a road today and 10 years down the road, we have to abandon the road, as is happening now at Shipping Bay? Why? We are not learning as if we are impregnable when it comes to understanding what the planning process is about. So I say to you, the New Democratic Party understands what climate change is. The New Democratic Party understands how you not just look to repair the damage done or caused by climate change, but how you design and build in anticipation of the changes that you know would come. Let me give you a simple example. Go through the budget and you'll find millions of dollars being spent for repairs. Case in point, the modern medical complex, as they call it in Georgetown. Do you know that they have set in this budget lots of money for repairs of that building that was opened less than 8 years ago? Do you know that the roof has got to be repaired? That the septic tank has got to be repaired? Let me just tell you all something about roofs. And you see, sometimes I go back to this and they accuse me of all kinds of things. Look at the headquarters building of the CWSA, built around between 1992 and 94. I can't remember the exact date now. It's about 30 years old now. Never had to do a thing to the roof. Never had to do a thing to the wall, air conditions. The CWSA invested in proper insulation in the ceiling, in selecting galvanized of the durable type to put on the roof, in selecting double glazed windows to keep the cooling inside the building, reduce the cost of air conditioning. That's back in the early 90s. That's climate change adaptation. Today, you put another building in Georgetown and 6 years later, you're changing the galvanized roof. My friends, I can tell you a little bit about what galvanized sheets are, because it's very similar to the galvanized iron pipes. You can go on the market and get galvanized sheets, a dime a dozen. Very thin sheets with very little galvanized protection in them. And they seem to do that sometimes when they're bringing these materials from Tankwell to bribe you. They give you galvanized that don't last as long as Miss Janie Fire. I know in my own constituency, you see people getting these galvanized and putting them down in the yard because they have no use for them. And within 3 years, they're rusted away. Because those galvanized are really for fencing, not for roofing. Galvanized iron sheets, the thickness of the galvanized sheet itself is one thing, and then the level of the galvanized coating for durability. And you can get them in different grades. But clearly, the government is using galvanized in several of its projects that are substandard. Hence, within 6 years, they're having to repair roofs. Will you ever hear that? Will you ever hear that in 6 years' time you have to repair the roof of a building you just opened? How can we sustain that? My friends, that is the meaning of climate change, adapting. You know that in the Georgetown area you're vulnerable. You have the influence of the salt water from the sea. You have the influence of the volcanic eruption, which is going to happen at some time. So you design your buildings to cope with the inevitable. I hear them talk in the budget about climate resilient designs for the new port in Kingstown. And I laugh because I know they failed to maintain the existing port to the point where it is at the point almost unusable. But I only hope and pray that in the design they are really climate resilient. Because with those steel frames and all of that right on the shore, one can only hope that they have the necessary protection, whether it be cathodic protection using the electrolysis, having a sacrificial metal to corrode instead of the iron and steel, and or they have excellent protection on those steel frames to make sure that you don't have corrosion to the point of deterioration of the building. One also hopes that with that size building, they're also using the roof, which is a big building at the port. One can only hope that they've so designed it that the roof can carry solar panels to reduce the cost of electricity, not just to the Port Authority, but to other government buildings in and around Kingston. In other words, that can contribute to the grid and reduce the carbon footprint. This is how a government that cares about its people thinks. Not idle talk, but in doing things that will redound to the benefit of all of our people. So much talk for climate change. I want to turn a little bit now to the transport and works. And the first thing I want to observe is that this is a magician government. I want you to listen to me carefully. For the government capital projects, more than half all capital projects fall under the Minister of Finance, the Ministry of Finance. Are you hearing me? You have a Ministry of Works and Transport with a cadre of engineers and technical staff. You have BRAXA with its own engineers and related staff. But more than 50% of all capital projects are assigned to the Ministry of Finance that has a handful of technical people. And you have to ask yourself why this is so. Is it that it affords an opportunity for less scrutiny so that people can cipher off more than they should? Is it that they really don't care about the projects being properly executed, but care more about who can get what they want out of these projects? Because any government that is serious about development will look carefully. And don't tell me this moko-jumby story about the donor countries requiring these projects be put under the Ministry of Finance. Absolute hogwash. The execution of the projects is a matter for the government of the country. No donor can tell you which ministry to put the funds under unless they have concerns about whether the funds are being spent properly. Their interest will be to make sure that the project is executed well and that they can get payments. The loans can be repaid. So don't be surprised when you find the Balcom, Bali and Bali having to take the government to court because they are breaching the terms of giving contracts. Don't be surprised when you have road projects that should last for 18 months, going on for 8 years, and still can't be completed, with 3 different sets of contractors being awarded, and still no accountability for the money is invested. Case in point, look at the roads going into Fort Charlotte and Edinburgh. Since before the last election, contracts were awarded and work started. Where is that project going? Why is this so? No accountability for the very large sums of money. You hear about a main contractor from Timbuktu subletting to several small contractors that God knows where they're from and what capabilities they have. Just look and see how these works are executed. They are designed to drain this country of its financial resources. There is clearly no plan to finish that project. The intention is to pay people for the rest of their lives for doing an hour's work in a day. I know what I'm talking about. I've been monitoring that project for years now. Oftentimes, you don't see workers on that project until 10 o'clock. And by midday, they're gone. Typically, that's how it goes. And one has to ask if these people are being paid full time. You have foreigners who are supposed to be supervising the projects turning up once a week. No wonder the projects are going nowhere. The question is, where is the money going? When would Vincentians get an account for these millions of dollars that are going down the tube? My friends, I want you to understand, and I'm going to turn my attention to the people of North Leeward. My good friend Patel Matthews, several years ago, made a proposal to this government to build a road, an alternative road to the Leeward Highway that will link Cumberland with just beyond Curtains. A very, very important road. Cumberland bypass, it's 820. Yeah. My friend, here's what I don't want to be misquoted, so I'm going to read exactly what it has. On the capital estimates for the Ministry of Transport and Works, item 552404, source of funds, local loans. Project description, Cumberland Bypass Road. And on the description, it says, to conduct studies and prepare designs. Completion date, 2024. That is this year. Listen to this. Estimated expenditure in 2024, $10. Estimated expenditure 25-0, 26-0. Total cost of the project, $10. North Leeward, this is as bogus as the whole budget and the whole government. You put a project in your capital estimate to conduct studies and prepare designs, and you say it will finish in 2024, and you allow $10. $10 for the total cost of the project. Fool a talk. You want to tell me a Minister of Finance will allow this document to go before Parliament with this amount of garbage? You want to tell me this is what passes for governance? How could this pass through the scrutiny of the supervisors in the Ministry of Finance or the Ministry of Works or anybody in government? Why is it there? But I tell you why. It's about their padding, making people believe that they're taking Patel's suggestions on board. There is quite a lot of evidence that that dangerous part of the Leeward Highway to Cumberland can be bypassed with a coastal road. And you know, the coast on the leeward side is not as threatening as on the windward side. A road that is much easier to build, that will open up lands in that area and reduce that significant risk in driving on the steepest parts of the road, leeward side of the island. Those of us who've been to Chateau and those areas, we anytime would understand how treacherous those parts, especially in Coles Hill and going up to all those areas in the North Leeward section. And here you have an opportunity to build a bypass road all the way to Cumberland. much shorter, much safer. And the government said they put it finally in the budget document, but put it to laugh at us. They intend to do absolutely nothing. Friends, let me take a few minutes to talk about my own constituency, because I want to make sure my dear friend and the next representative for East St. George to have an opportunity to respond to the rubbish presented by the current representative, but West Kingstown for now. We have been hearing ever since Rene Batiste was representative for West Kingstown, we've been hearing that the government is going to repair that bridge leading to Fort Charlotte. My dear friends, the Taiwanese government has provided funding for it. A consultant has been in place for nearly 3 years now with the designs. And this budget tells us that if we are lucky, in 2026, we will get the bridge built. A bridge that should take no more than 18 months to design and construct. You're not building a new bridge, you're repairing an historic bridge. And this government can't get that project going. Right now, they tell us it's going nowhere because they're working on repairing Fort Charlotte. That's another thing that has been ongoing for God knows how long. My friends, listen, West Kingstown, don't expect any change. There is the Minister of Foreign Affairs who lives in Camden Park on a road that is worse than Tucumjeni. And that road can get repaired. Do you think we can get anything done in West Kingston with this government and that foreign minister in charge? Listen, wherever you go in West Kingston, roads are a nightmare. We have a situation now where the leeward coast is the new Grenadines as far as tourism is concerned. You've seen the developments, and we welcome the Sandals investment in Bukama. We hear of further works down the road. We know black sand turned to gray a long time ago because it's going nowhere. But the leeward coast has tremendous potential. We all know what it's like trying to traverse between Argyle and Kingston certain hours of the day. Could you imagine trying to move people from Argyle to the leeward side with a tractor trailer going up Gibson Corner into Lowmans? We keep urging these jokers to build an alternative route to the leeward side of the island from Kingstown, going through Edinburgh, Otley Hall into Lowmans Bay and into Camden Park. We have a route already earmarked for it. We have the Otley Hall Marina to be restored, to create employment, proper employment opportunities for the people of this country, not just West Kingstown. And that will come under Dr. Friday's government, soon to be. The Otley Hall project is such a magnificent facility in concept and design. We have all our ships having to go to Trinidad from the smallest of repairs now. They allow the dry dock to become as rotten as the ULP government. Totally rotten away. A dry dock facility that is so excellent using the water and the suction so that the vessel floats in and suddenly appears on dry dock so that they can do all the sandblasting and all the repairs work. You had a machine shop in Otley Hall there that was fitted with the most modern of equipment and tools to undertake any kind of repairs. You had a magnificent grocery associated with that facility. We started to build the small hotel so that the yachties, while their boats are being repaired, can have a hotel on site where they can stay. All of that is abandoned. Dr. Friday's government will restore Otley Hall to the best docking port facility for ships and yachts. No wonder the yachting industry is suffering so much. We will restore it. I see that they have decided to build the piece of road in Upper Edinburgh. As you go in towards the bridge at the fort, turn to the left. That road has been in need of repair for years, for whatever reason, and I thank them for starting the construction, but I want you to listen to me. They have built a few yards down the hill with that road. Fairly well built, with the drain sloping on one side, so the water is in the drain. But where they have stopped on a very steep part of the road, they have just left the drain abruptly there. So when it's raining, all of the water of several hundred yards of concrete, very steep, is coming down in the gutter. And you know what? The rest of the road that is paved is now under massive erosion attack. Because they've done nothing to divert the water at the end of that newly constructed, newly paved road. The water simply runs off the concrete at this tremendous slope and speed, and it erodes the rest of the road. I charge these criminals to go back quickly and put a mechanism to take that water off the road, to save what's left of the unfinished road, so that the people can get to their homes below. I don't know what kind of a government this is. I don't know what kind of people would want to inflict this cruelty on our good people in West Kingston like this. I charge them to go quickly and make sure there's a mechanism for taking that water off the paved section of the road, safely disposing of it on the side to prevent the rest of the track going to the people's home from being completely washed away. I can't wait for an opportunity to be able to deliver the services of the people that the people of West Kingston desire. The simple piece of road between Edinburgh and Montrose that Julian Francis says costs $30,000. They're putting $120,000 to make believe they're doing with geothermal instead of fixing that piece of road. West Kingston, we will be there soon. We know your needs. We will be reaching you. We will be solving your problems. Let us get rid of these clowns. Install Dr. Friday and company, and we will get you where you want to go. I want to thank you for listening and viewing, and to assure you that we in the New Democratic Party will continue to look after your needs, to make sure your children and ours get the best possible health care, employment opportunities, and all that is good for you. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the presentation by the Honorable Daniel Cummins. He's the New Democratic Party's elected representative for the constituency of West Kingston. That was his budget presentation here on the New Times program. We're standing by now because we will have the budget response to Camelo Gonzalez's East St. George budget presentation. The New Democratic Party's caretaker candidate in the constituency of East St. George, Sister Laverne Gibson Vellox, will make her budget response to that East St. George budget presentation. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I now turn you over to her presentation, Laverne Gibson Vellox.
Thank you very much, Colin. Good afternoon, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Happy New Year to each and every one, especially to the people of East St. George. I'm here today not as a parliamentarian, but as the candidate for the New Democratic Party in East St. George. I was actually sitting in the parliament last Wednesday when the current rep for East St. George stood up to do his wrapping up. And I was taken aback when he declared that it was an East St. George budget. I had no choice but to take some notes, and I jumped at this opportunity to respond to some of the things that he said. The first thing he said was that a school was going to be built in Brighton because East St. George has never had a secondary school. I'm all for education and educational opportunities for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I welcome the school, I do, but I'm praying that there's a technical wing attached for things like home economics, woodwork, and technical drawing, and other skill-based subjects, which will also be available for evening classes. There are way too many people, young people, walking around in East St. George with nothing to do. And I would welcome an opportunity that they would be able to get some skills and be able to proudly earn their own money and become self-sufficient. He moved on to road repairs in Calico. And yes, the roads and the drains in Calico needed some repairs, and this has commenced with all the expertise on hand, and all I can see is chaos. And while I welcome this project, it seems like there was no plan in place for its execution. We now have to contend with an inordinate amount of dust in Calico because we dug up all the roads, all the drains, and we also have to deal with water settling in drains, breeding mosquitoes, and the stench associated with still wastewater. At a cost of $2.2 million, the people of Calico have great expectations for this project. I'm asking you, please don't disappoint them. The bridge at Diamond next to Myers Sweets and Randy's Supermarket is finally being fixed. Finally, this has been in this condition for years, literally years. This particular area was a hazard for the public, with drums placed on the road to alert drivers of the situation. This should have been fixed a long time ago. It's on the highway and interferes with the free flow of traffic. The rep said this particular area was being undermined, which should have made solving the problem a priority. We are taking the safety of our people, and it's not limited. We're talking about the safety of our people, and it's not limited to the people of East St. George. It's about everyone who uses the Windward Highway, and that's literally all Vincentians. The roads by Thomas's apartments and C Street in Belvedere that he talked about that are going to be repaired are concrete roads that resemble a mosaic. They're just broken up into little pieces. And these are the roads, the rains come and wash it out, and these are the roads that people have to traverse on every day. They have been like that for years. Why is it taking all this time to do these fixes that would alleviate wear and tear on vehicles, tires, shocks, etc.? I mean, it's all part of serving your constituents. Most roads ever to be repaired in East St. George. That was his declaration. This is because the roads have been neglected, and that's nothing to boast about. It is actually a crying shame that roads were left to deteriorate to this extent. And while I agree heavier vehicles are partially responsible, I'm also thinking that our development as a nation was never taken into consideration. As the country develops, our needs are enhanced, more sophisticated in terms of the tools required to execute projects effectively. Our network of roads should have been re-engineered to accommodate heavier equipment. They had the time to do it. 23 years is a long time. We're talking about clinics now, and this is something that I had in my mini manifesto of 2020. It was something that I felt very strongly about. He declared that the NM's clinic is going to be upgraded and refurbished, and it will become a wellness center. I am looking forward to that because I'm sure one of these days I'll be able to utilize some of its services. The Kalia Clinic, on the other hand, is to be upgraded to a polyclinic. I spoke in New York in October, and I quote, Caliacua was once the capital of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but that is not reflected in what you see. We need a polyclinic. Caliacua and its environs are arguably some of the most densely populated areas in the country. People's lives and their health depend on adequately equipped and staffed facilities. And while I'm on this topic, the NM's clinic needs to be refurbished too. This was also encompassed in the East St. George mini manifesto of 2020, presented for the elections. And it seems as though that was never part of the ULP's plan, but they took that directly from us, and they say we in the NDP have no plans, but they are capitalizing on the plans that we have put forward. And I say to the people who say the NDP have no plans, take another look at what we have been offering over the years. Listen and hear what we have had to say, and you would understand where we were coming from, where we want to go to, and what they have taken from us. Budget 2024 will nice up East St. George like never before, the representative said. But why haven't you treated the people of East St. George with the respect they deserve since you became their rep in 2015? Why now? Is this an election gimmick, a ploy to win their votes? He talked about the Enhams and Glamorgan Road and the Fairhall Road. These have been under repair for years. When will they be completed? I mean, we can't go on with this forever. The Villa Strip is finally to be resurfaced in February. That's next month. I took to the airwaves to speak, not about females trying to navigate this dirt strip in high-heeled shoes, but about the hygiene aspect of dining in this area. Most restaurants offer outdoor dining. With vehicular traffic and wind creating a dusty atmosphere, this could never be healthy for patrons of businesses on the strip. The condition of the strip did not occur last week, last month, last year, or even in the last 5 years. All the businesses on the strip are locally owned primarily by young entrepreneurs. This area should have been fixed a long time ago in the interest of tourism and encouraging local investors to invest in our country. The boardwalk of Villa is to be upgraded. Finally, treacherous was how the rep described it. That's shameful. I walk that beat regularly, and I've posted on social media about the horrendous condition of that part of the boardwalk leading to the area the tourists frequent. The rails were broken and rotted, nail heads were raised, and there were boards missing on the walkway. I even noted that the signage belonging to the former aquatic club was being used to patch a hole on the walkway. That was shameful too. Villa is arguably the most popular beach on mainland St. Vincent, frequented by locals and tourists alike. Maintenance for people's safety must be a priority. Mr. Representative, I am asking you, please, and I'm reminding you that it's a part of your constituency, and accordingly, it's your responsibility. Camilo Gonsalves became the rep for East St. George in December 2015. In a cabinet reshuffle on November 10, 2017, he assumed responsibility for the Ministry of Finance. I said this in New York. I am focused on becoming the best representative of East St. George since our own Louis Jones, the man who currently holds the title, but not the hearts of the people, squandered a great opportunity to serve all of the people. It is an indictment on him that he holds the public purse, but his constituency is visibly the most neglected and consequently most rundown in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm still waiting. Poverty was not addressed in your budget speech. Jobs were not addressed. I'm trying to understand something. All the projects that you're talking about, which you say will nice up East St. George like never before, are these projects going to provide jobs for the people of East St. George? The representative was grandstanding, huffing and puffing and thumping his chest all about these projects in Budget 2024. But most of them are basic infrastructural projects earmarked for things that should have been maintained on a regular basis. Roads, bridges, etc. are basic needs for pedestrians and motorists alike. Effective maintenance programs save money. All of these problems have existed for years and totally ignored by the powers that be. Why the urgency at this time? Multiple small projects ongoing to create the illusion that much is being done. It is quite obvious that the finance minister and the current representative of East St. George follows my lead. I highlight the various plights of East St. George in my mini manifesto of 2020 on social media and at a town hall meeting in New York last October, and he uses them as his contribution to the budget almost verbatim. Yet the New Democratic Party is devoid of ideas. That's a lot of rubbish. Seriously, I am NDP. We are ready to serve the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I am ready to serve all the people of East St. George. I thank you.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We say thank you very much to Sister Laverne Gibson Velox. She is the New Democratic Party's caretaker, upcoming candidate in the next general elections for the constituency of East St. George. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard presentations from the chairman of the New Democratic Party, the elected representative for the constituency of West Kingstown, the Honorable Daniel Cummins, in his budget response, along with Senator Israel Bruce. And of course, you just heard from Laverne Gibson Velox right here on the New Times program. For the rest of the week, the other members of the NDP will be making their budget responses and presentations here on the New Times program, as well as on the New Democratic Party social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. And we encourage you to tune in and to be part of every single one of them. Just don't look at them. Just don't listen to them. Share them, ladies and gentlemen. Let the message spread. We will take a break here. And of course, when we come back, we will have the wrap-up here on the New Times program here today. That's the team, ladies and gentlemen. That's it right there for you. For those of you who are viewing, we want to say thank you very much to the Honorable Daniel Cummins, Senator Israel Bruce, and Laverne Gibson Velox. The NDP is ready to take leadership in this country, ladies and gentlemen. The question is, are you ready now to vote in the government that this country deserves? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much this morning and today for your presentations. We will take a break, ladies and gentlemen, and we will come back with more here on the New Times program. So stay with us.
Still has the best prices on steel, lumber, and plywood. So go on, compare prices. And if by chance you find a better price, no stress. Just talk to the general, and they will beat that price plus give you special priority delivery.